I'm Teisha with Shalom TV's news update from Monday, February the 24th, 2014.
Good evening.
U.S. Undersecretary for Political Affairs Wendy Sherman met in Jerusalem this weekend with Israeli officials regarding the recent talks in Vienna between the P5+1 and Iran. Sherman briefed Israel's Intelligence Minister Yuval Steinitz and others on the talks. Following the briefing, Steinitz said the discussion with Sherman dealt in, quote, great detail with diplomatic, intelligence, and technical aspects of the Iranian nuclear program, and was part of Israel's ongoing strategic dialogue with the United States. Steinitz also reiterated Israel's position regarding Iran, saying that Israel reserves the right to assess the Iranian situation and make the decisions that it needs to. Sherman had said Saturday night that while she would like there to be zero uranium enrichment allowed to Iran, Iran might be allowed a, quote, limited nuclear program that, quote, addresses practical needs. Israel has maintained that any agreement with Iran must include total dismantling of its uranium enrichment capabilities. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reiterated this at the opening of his weekly cabinet meeting, saying he was concerned that with the enrichment and other capabilities, Iran believes it can still realize its nuclear goals. The Prime Minister said this combination of enrichment, weapons, and launch capabilities means that Iran is in effect receiving everything and giving almost nothing. German Chancellor Angela Merkel is arriving in Israel today along with 16 members of her cabinet. She will hold meetings with Israeli leaders, including with Prime Minister Netanyahu, and a joint meeting between Israel and Germany tomorrow. According to Netanyahu's office, during tomorrow's government meeting, Israel and Germany will sign a series of agreements covering defense, foreign relations, trade, scientific research and development, as well as culture and welfare issues. The meetings and events mark 50 years of diplomatic ties between Israel and Germany. Jewish groups are responding to several crises across the globe. The Jewish Agency announced yesterday that it would be providing emergency aid to the Jewish community in the Ukraine after violent clashes there between the government and peaceful protesters. Jewish Agency Chair Natan Sharansky said there was a moral obligation to provide the assistance to ensure the safety of Jews in the Ukraine and strengthen Jewish institutions there, and that the Jewish Agency has been in contact with Jewish leadership in the region. It was reported over the weekend that Ukraine President Viktor Yanukovych was ousted following deadly violence against protesters, which has left upwards of 70 dead. There were also two separate anti-Semitic attacks reported last month in Ukraine, which took place outside a synagogue in Kiev. And just today it was reported that firebombs were thrown at the Gimat Rosa synagogue in Zaporizhia last night. That is located 250 miles southeast of Kiev. No one was hurt in that incident, and police were investigating. The American Jewish Joint Distribution Committee has stepped up their efforts to help Jews in the Ukraine as well, advocating their emergency response unit on the ground, delivering food, medicine, and other critical supplies to the Jewish community there in need. The American Jewish Committee has expressed their outrage at the continuing violence in the Ukraine. They also called on the government of Venezuela to end its crackdown against its citizens. Director of AJC's Latino and Latin American Institute, Dina Siegel-Van, criticized the Venezuelan government for denying human rights to its citizens after recent escalation there of clashes between the government and peaceful protesters. She also raised concern for the Jewish community there following a statement made recently by the deputy of the National Assembly in Venezuela, Yul Jabbour, who blamed, quote, international Zionism for the recent unrest. Jabbour said international Zionism is involved in the wave of Nazi fascist violence in Caracas. Siegel-Van said repression of Venezuelans, scapegoating of Jews, and other harsh practices of the late Hugo Chavez regime are tragically, for this troubled country, continuing under the present government. The Jerusalem Post reports that thousands of people gathered last night in Tel Aviv in an effort to release convicted Israeli spy Jonathan Pollard. The demonstrators convened outside the U.S. Embassy in Tel Aviv, demanding Pollard's release. Pollard's wife Esther told the crowd today, after nearly 30 years, In prison, there is no one who does not know that Jonathan's life sentence is grossly disproportionate and unjust. Adding, indeed, many senior American officials are now calling for Jonathan's release as a matter of simple justice and as a humanitarian issue. The Pollard issue is also one that unites Israeli politicians from both the coalition and opposition parties. Representatives from Likud, Labor, Yesh Atid, and Bayit HaYehudi attended the rally last night. Co-chairman of the Knesset caucus for Jonathan Pollard's release, Nachman Shai of Labor, noted the recent petition signed by 106 of the 120 Knesset members calling for Pollard's release, saying no other cause has united the Israeli parliament in this way. Jonathan Pollard was convicted of passing classified information to Israel. He is serving the 29th year of a life sentence. Israel and Jordan have signed a multi-million-dollar gas deal. Under the deal signed last week, Israel will supply $500 million worth of gas to Jordan from the Tamar natural gas field in the Mediterranean. Texas-based Noble Energy, who is the biggest foreign investor in Israel's offshore gas fields, announced the deal on Wednesday. It is set to go into effect in 2016 and continue for 15 years. Israel's Channel 2 reported that in that time, the deal may grow into a $30 billion deal, under which Israel would become the major supplier of Jordan's gas needs. The U.S., Israeli, and Jordanian venture was pushed along by several parties, including U.S. Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for Energy Diplomacy Amos Hochstein, whose parents are Israeli, as well as Israel's President Shimon Peres. U.S. President Barack Obama will be presenting the Medal of Honor to several war veterans next month who may have been overlooked in the past because of their religious, racial, or ethnic backgrounds. The White House released a statement this weekend that 24 Army veterans, including Jewish, Hispanic, and African Americans who were previously recognized with the Distinguished Service Cross, the nation's second highest military award, will be honored on March the 18th in an effort to, quote, ensure that those deserving the Medal of Honor were not denied because of prejudice. In 2002, Congress ordered the Pentagon to review past discrimination of soldiers worthy of the honor under the Defense Authorization Act, reviewing war records from World War II, the Korean War, and the Vietnam War. Only 3 of the 24 veterans who will be honored are still alive. The Anti-Defamation League welcomed the announcement. ADL National Director Abe Foxman said in this instance, justice was delayed but not denied. Foxman said it is a very welcome effort and show of sensitivity by this administration to seek to redress acts of discrimination, and this recognition is especially praiseworthy in that it relates to soldiers who fought so bravely on behalf of this country in America's wars. The Medal of Honor recognizes gallantry, intrepidity, and heroism above and beyond the call of duty.
It's beautiful.
A woman believed to be the oldest Holocaust survivor has now died. 110-year-old Alice Hertz-Sommer died in London yesterday. Hertz-Sommer was a Jewish pianist from Prague who was sent, together with her young son, to Theresienstadt concentration camp, and is the subject of an Oscar-nominated documentary called The Lady in Number 6, which tells the story of how she and other musicians gave concerts in the concentration camp to keep spirits up. Her husband and mother were killed in the war, but she and her son Raphael survived. Raphael went on to become an accomplished cellist and conductor. He died in 2001. Before her death, Hertz-Sommer said, "I think I am in my last days, but it doesn't really matter because I have had such a beautiful life. I have no space nor time," she said, "for pessimism and hate. Everything we experience is a gift, a present we should cherish and pass on to those we love." And turning to our Shalom TV programming for tonight, Monday, February the 24th, a new segment of the Wisdom of Dr. Ruth Westheimer is coming up at 7. At 8 o'clock, Rabbi Erwin Kula and author Douglas Rushcliffe ask, "Whose Torah is it?" at the Jewish Futures Conference. And Orthodox female Rabbi Sarah Hurwitz joins Mark Golub tonight on L'chaim at 9. That's all coming up here on Shalom TV and ShalomTV.com. And that's Shalom TV's news update for Monday, February the 24th, 2014. I'm Teisha Bader.